Today, the people of our part of the country are respected and recognized as the people who are in the mainstream of American political thought. And I've spoken to groups all over the United States. And I used to say when I was a young man, back in junior high and otherwise, I hope someday I can tell the people of our country about the great people of this region. Because the news media in those days used to really talk about your grandfathers and grandmothers and your mothers and fathers. If you read what they said about them, you wouldn't recognize them because there was something evil and bad, and they had all sorts of attitudes that were just not in keeping with the mainstream of what those who thought they knew best we should think. I went on a college speaking tour when I was first governor, when you all were too young to remember it. Back when it was very difficult to speak at a college, you'd come out alive, you made a successful trip.
Back in the 60s, this was one successful trip from which George came out alive. Students and the peace movement tried a new tactic on George, wildly cheering his every inflammatory statement. This was the old George, the real George, the one the liberals loved to hate, rather like Genghis Khan dressed up as Mickey Rooney.
That's right, you little punk, you. Why don't you come on up here?
One would hardly guess that the man who has whipped up so many mobs is himself terrified of crowds.
I'll tell you what, when I'm elected, I'm going to come back to California, and you just try me when I get back. You just try me when I get back.
I've always said that if it ever came to the point, he would put cork on his face and paint his face black to get the black vote, if that's what it took to get it, unless there was a stronger reaction from the whites that would negate it.
We were not against people because of the way God made them, and never had been. That we were a basic religious people. But we were against big government trying to control every phase and aspect of people's lives, because, my young friends, big government is the enemy of the people.
There's an inborn, inbred, inherent, habitual antagonism against federal government in the South.
But surely that's where George Wallace derives his power from.
Yes, and I would say that the average Southerner wants everything he can get out of the federal government, but wants no part of it.
So when Wallace talks about being against big government, he's appealing to that old Civil War hangover,
appealing to the individualism, the militancy, and the pride that a Southerner has, just like the British soldier walking down a street like he has his foot on the whole world, which I used to watch a New Zealand soldier and a British soldier walk with his head up, and I respected him for that. And a Southerner will fight you tomorrow morning over a woman's honor, over the Civil War, over nearly anything. We're fighting